The piercing sound of alarms cut through the humid air of the Jovian gas mining platform as chaos erupted in the Grand Hall. Diplomats of all shapes and colors scattered, their voices a cacophony of fear and confusion. Ambassador Talia Rourke lay crumpled at the center of the polished onyx stage, a vivid crimson pool spreading beneath her. The assassination was as brazen as it was unexpected, a shocking breach of the fragile peace that had brought dozens of alien races to this floating fortress in the swirling clouds of Jupiter. Captain Marcus Liu pushed through the crowd, his heart pounding in his chest like a war drum. He dropped to his knees beside Talia, his fingers trembling as they searched for a pulse that wasn't there. Her lifeless eyes stared up, forever fixed on the gas-lit chandeliers above, and Marcus knew the dream of unity she cherished had died with her. "Get security on lockdown," Marcus barked into his comm, the device crackling with static as the platform's systems scrambled to contain the chaos. "We have to secure the delegates. No one leaves until we find out who did this." Around him, the gas miners and engineers, ordinary humans thrown into extraordinary circumstances, rushed to obey his commands, their faces set with grim determination. They were under siege, and yet, their resolve only hardened. As Marcus rose, his mind raced through possibilities. Who among the many alien factions here would benefit most from disrupting the peace talks? His eyes scanned the fringes of the crowd, locking onto the cold, narrowed gaze of Ambassador Vrel, a reptilian dignitary from the Arkle Consortium. Vrel's people had long opposed human presence in the Jovian system, citing resource competition and environmental impact, and had much to gain if the talks failed. The tension in the room was electric, the previously cordial atmosphere now crackling with suspicion and fear. Marcus had no proof, but his instincts screamed that Vrel knew more than he let on. "Captain Liu," a voice crackled through his earpiece, jarring him from his thoughts. It was Dr. Alara Jennings, the platform's chief medical officer. "I'm on my way to the scene. Hold tight." Marcus nodded, though she couldn't see him, and steeled himself for the task ahead. Across the hall, Ambassador Vrel turned abruptly, disappearing into the throng of panicked delegates. Marcus's heart clenched with the certainty that they were running out of time. Every second counted. The peace talks were the culmination of years of work, of hard-fought trust and delicate diplomacy. And now, with Talia's murder, everything was unraveling. "We have to keep them here," Marcus muttered to himself, his voice a low growl of determination as he motioned his team to fan out. "We have to find out who's behind this before it tears us apart." As the platform's security teams moved to seal the exits, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that they were just pawns in a larger game, one where the stakes were as high as the gaseous cliffs that loomed outside the platform's panoramic windows. But what their adversaries didn't understand was that humans, even when underestimated, were not so easily defeated. Marcus knew they would face whatever came next with tenacity and resilience, fighting not just for Talia's memory, but for the fragile hope of peace she had believed in. The platform shuddered slightly, a reminder of its precarious perch in the gas giant's turbulent skies, as if to echo the uncertainty that now loomed over them all. Marcus's gaze hardened, his jaw set with a steely resolve. Whoever had struck this blow would soon learn that humanity, despite seeming outnumbered and outmatched, was a force not to be underestimated. "Let's find out how deep this goes," Marcus thought, his eyes narrowing as he followed the trail of whispers and shadows that would lead them to the truth, or to their doom. The conference room aboard the United Earth Embassy station was a microcosm of the galaxy's most volatile tensions. Representatives from 20 species assembled, each bringing their own agendas, their own histories of interstellar conflict and cooperation, and their own mistrust of one another. It was, in some ways, a miracle that they had managed to achieve any semblance of diplomacy at all. But today, that fragile peace was unraveling, and the room buzzed with an undercurrent of barely suppressed panic. Ambassador Elena Torres stood at the center of the room, her presence a steadying force amidst the chaos. Known for her poise and unyielding commitment to unity, she was the embodiment of humanity's tenacity and vision. Her dark eyes scanned the room, assessing the expressions of her colleagues, searching for any sign of who might be responsible for the crisis they were all now facing. "Ambassador Voss," she addressed the towering, armored figure to her right, a representative of the reptilian Zarnik. "Can you confirm the reports from your sector? Are the trade routes truly under attack?" Voss's scaled brow furrowed, and his voice rumbled with a deep, resonant timbre. "The reports are accurate, Ambassador Torres. Our ships have engaged unknown hostiles, but their technology surpasses anything recorded in the known registries. We are sustaining heavy losses. A murmur spread through the room like wildfire. The Zarnik were among the most formidable warriors in the galaxy. If they struggled, the threat was indeed severe. Elena felt a chill crawl up her spine. Has anyone claimed responsibility for these attacks? No, Voss replied, frustration shading his response. Whoever they are, they strike swiftly and vanish before we can identify them. The rumors mention a new coalition, an alliance of outcasts and exiles, interjected Ambassador Sally, a slender being with shimmering blue skin from the Aelorian Consortium. Her voice was melodic but tinged with worry. A faction that thrives on chaos. Elena nodded, the pieces of a dark puzzle beginning to align in her mind. A coalition with no defined borders, with nothing to lose. They'd be impossible to track through conventional means. Precisely, Sally confirmed, her eyes meeting Elena's with a shared understanding of the gravity of their situation. The room fell into tense silence as the weight of their predicament settled over them. Elena knew they needed more than information. They needed a plan, something to give them an edge against an enemy that seemed to have already gained the upper hand. Her mind raced through possibilities, her thoughts interrupted by a sudden flash of inspiration. Commander Jackson, she called, turning towards the holographic interface where the human military liaison's image flickered into view. His square-jawed face was a picture of focus, a stark contrast to the chaos surrounding them. Yes, Ambassador? He replied, a hint of urgency in his voice. Is there any chance we could deploy the Luminous Protocol? She asked, referring to an experimental technology developed by Earth's brightest minds. It was designed to track energy signatures across vast distances, capable of pinpointing ships even with advanced cloaking devices. Jackson hesitated, the weight of her request apparent. It's still in the testing phase, Elena. We haven't verified its stability in a live operation. We might not have the luxury of time to wait, she pressed, her voice firm. If we don't locate these attackers, the losses could be catastrophic, not just for the Zarnik, but for all of us. Jackson's jaw clenched, the internal battle between caution and necessity clear on his face. I'll contact Earth Command. See if we can expedite its deployment. But, Elena, you understand the risks? I do, she replied, a tinge of steel in her voice. But if we don't act, the consequences could be far worse. As Jackson's image disappeared, Elena turned back to face the gathered ambassadors, her mind already strategizing on how to maintain the delicate balance of trust amidst their fear. We need to strengthen our defenses, coordinate our intelligence, she began, her voice carrying the authority and urgency of a seasoned leader. If we stand united, we may yet uncover what we are facing. Her words hung in the air, a call to arms for those who sat at the table of stars. They began to respond, tentative but promising, offering ships and data, pledging cooperation in this shadow war. Yet, as Elena watched them, a dark thought lingered. Trust was a fragile commodity, easily shattered by fear. The coalition of outcasts they faced wasn't just a physical threat, it was a testament to the fractures already present in the great galactic alliances. The meeting adjourned, and as the ambassadors dispersed, Elena lingered, staring out into the vast expanse beyond the station's transparent walls. Stars blinked in the distance, indifferent to the struggles of those who called them home. She was joined by Voss, his heavy presence a comfort amidst the isolation of space. Do you truly believe this coalition can be stopped? He asked, his voice low and contemplative. I have to, she replied softly. We all have to believe it can be, or everything we've worked for falls apart. Voss nodded, a rare show of shared resolve. Then let us hope your protocol succeeds, Ambassador. For all our sakes. As he left, Elena remained, her thoughts a whirlwind of strategies and what-ifs. The stakes had never been higher, and the path forward was fraught with peril. She knew that humanity, and their allies, had faced insurmountable odds before. But this time, the enemy was a ghost, a phantom that threatened to tear apart the fragile tapestry of galactic peace. And as the shadows deepened, Elena resolved to be the light that guided them through. The days that followed were a blur of activity. Elena and her team worked tirelessly, coordinating with ambassadors, strategizing defense plans, and attempting to unravel the mystery of their unseen adversary. The threat loomed ever larger, like a storm on the horizon, dark and full of unspoken dangers. Reports of attacks grew more frequent, each one a dagger to the heart of their fragile alliances. The coalition's strategy was clear: to sow discord and fear, to fracture the unity that had kept the galaxy from descending into chaos. And with each new strike, their grip tightened. The Luminous Protocol was expedited, its deployment approved amidst much debate and desperation. Jackson coordinated with Earth Command, arranging for the technology to be integrated with their most advanced ships. It was a gamble, a roll of the dice that Elena hoped would turn the tide. As the first ships equipped with the protocol set out, Elena could feel the tension in the air, a palpable anticipation mixed with dread. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see if this human innovation would be their salvation or if it would unravel into catastrophe. In the command center of the Earth Embassy Station, Elena watched the data streams, her heart pounding in her chest. The air was thick with silence, the kind that comes before a storm. The room was filled with the hum of computers and the soft murmur of voices, all eyes fixed on the monitors. Jackson stood beside her, his gaze fixed on the same screens, his expression unreadable. "We're getting the first readings now," he reported, his voice steady but with an edge of tension. "The protocol is scanning wide sectors, searching for anomalous energy signatures." Elena nodded, her eyes never leaving the screen. "Let's hope it finds something." Minutes stretched into what felt like hours, the tension in the room growing as each moment passed. Then, a sudden flurry of activity on the monitors drew everyone's attention. Data poured in, streams of numbers and graphs painting a picture of the unknown. "We have a lock," Jackson announced, his voice alive with a mix of excitement and disbelief. The protocols picked up a cluster of signatures. "They're moving through the outer sectors, just beyond Zarnik space." A collective gasp rippled through the room. They had found them, an entire fleet, hidden in the shadows, moving with deadly purpose. "Send the coordinates to our allies," Elena instructed, her voice sharp with determination. "We can't let this opportunity slip away." Jackson relayed the information, and within moments, allied ships from various species were mobilizing, converging on the location with a speed born of desperation and resolve. It was a massive, coordinated effort, a testament to the fragile alliances they had built. As the ships closed in, however, the true scope of their enemy's power became apparent. The coalition fleet was vast, a dark swarm against the backdrop of stars. Ships of unknown design and unprecedented technology moved with a precision that was almost graceful, each one a deadly predator in the void. The battle that followed was a brutal dance of fire and fury. Lasers cut through the darkness, explosions lit up the night, and ships twisted and turned in a deadly ballet. The coalition fought with a ferocity that was unmatched, their tactics ruthless and efficient. But the allies were no mere prey. They fought back with all the strength and courage they could muster. The Luminous Protocol gave them an edge, allowing them to anticipate movements and strike with precision. Yet, despite their best efforts, the battle was turning against them. Elena watched in horror as ship after ship was lost, the Allied forces pushed to the brink. The enemy was relentless, a tide of destruction that threatened to sweep them all away. "We're losing too many," Jackson said, his voice tight with frustration. "We need to regroup, reassess. If we keep fighting like this, we'll be overwhelmed." Elena knew he was right. The battle was a desperate, losing struggle, and the coalition's strength was staggering. But retreating now would mean abandoning their allies, leaving them to face the darkness alone. "Fall back to defensive positions," she ordered, her heart heavy with the decision. "But keep the protocol active. We need to track their movements, learn everything we can." The Allied ships pulled back, forming a defensive perimeter as they regrouped. The coalition did not pursue, their fleet holding its position with an ominous calm. As the battle faded into silence, Elena felt a sense of dread settle over her. The threat was greater than they had imagined, the coalition more powerful and organized than anyone had anticipated. Yet in that moment of darkness, there was a flicker of hope. The Luminous Protocol had worked. It had given them the means to fight back, to understand their enemy, to plan their next move. But the cost had been high, and the battle was far from over. Elena turned to Jackson, her resolve hardening into steel. "Prepare for the next phase," she said. "We need to find out who leads them, what their ultimate goal is, and how we can stop them." Jackson nodded, his expression grim but determined. "We'll find a way, Elena. We always do." As the galaxy braced for what was to come, Elena knew they stood on the precipice of annihilation. The coalition was a storm, a force of chaos threatening to engulf them all. But humanity had faced storms before, and they had always found a way to stand firm, to fight back. Together with their allies, they would face this new enemy, unravel the mystery of their existence, and turn back the tide of destruction. For in the heart of the storm, there was always a chance for light. The air was thick with tension. The very atmosphere of the Alliance consulate seemed to congeal, clinging to skin and clothing alike. Ambassador Lila Morgan had barely processed the sight, a flash of metal, a punctured throat, and the light in Ambassador Faison Hussain's eyes dimming too quickly. It played in her mind like a broken hollow reel, each frame slower, every detail stark. The peace talks had been intended to fortify a fragile alliance between the humans and the Krovax coalition, but the assassination of Hussain had shattered any illusion of trust. Lila stood in the center of the consulate's grand chamber, surrounded by the towering, opalescent walls that glimmered with the bioluminescent glow of the Krovax architectural preferences. Her heart pounded, but she forced herself to remain still, a sentinel amidst chaos. Krovax guards moved with alarming speed, detaining the human delegation, their deep violet exoskeletons reflecting the light. The humans were outmatched, weaponless and outnumbered, and the Krovax, though diplomatic, were known for their martial prowess. A voice broke through the haze. General Threx, his mandibles clicking in a manner that humans found unnerving. This is an unprecedented breach of protocol, Ambassador Morgan. We demand an explanation. Lila met his cold, multifaceted gaze. I assure you, General Threx, we are as shocked as you are. Ambassador Hussain was a proponent of peace. This act is an affront to everything we've worked for. Yet it happened under your delegation's watch, Threx countered, gesturing to the Krovax soldiers who were securing the area, their elongated limbs moving with a grace that belied their lethality. Lila felt a surge of anger, righteous and burning, but she swallowed it back. We will cooperate fully with the investigation. Whoever orchestrated this wants to sabotage our alliance. We cannot let them succeed. Sergeant Mason Cole, Lila's security chief, stood close by, his eyes scanning the room, calculating possibilities and risks. His presence was a solid reminder of the stakes. A former Marine, Cole was not a man easily intimidated, but even he seemed to sense the precariousness of their situation. Ambassador, we need to secure our people, he murmured, barely audibly. Lila nodded, her mind racing. The diplomatic mission was in tatters, and she felt the weight of responsibility for each member of her team. She turned to Cole. Get everyone accounted for. No one leaves each other's sight, understood? As Cole moved to carry out her orders, Lila felt a tug at her sleeve. It was Dr. Alara Jensen, the cultural liaison, her eyes wide with fear and disbelief. Lila, what are we going to do? If they think we're responsible. We're not responsible, Lila interrupted, her voice firm. We need to prove that. Alara nodded, though her hands trembled slightly. Do you think the Krovax will believe us? We have to make them believe us, Lila replied, though uncertainty gnawed at her resolve. We need to find out who really did this, and why. The Krovax had been wary allies, their agreement to negotiate a testament to a shared interest in stability. The humans, new to the interstellar stage, were still proving themselves. This assassination was a setback, no, a catastrophe. It made them appear not only vulnerable but suspect, and Lila knew the Krovax would not easily dismiss that. Hours passed as the humans were confined to their quarters, their movements monitored by Krovax sentinels. Lila convened a meeting in the narrow confines of the delegation's shared quarters, the mood somber. We need to figure out who stands to gain the most from this, Lila said, addressing the group. Suggestions? Alara spoke first. There are factions within the coalition itself that may not want this alliance. Or another external party, suggested Tomas Rivera, the delegation's tech specialist. There's always been tension with the Virex syndicate. They could be looking to destabilize us. Cole, standing by the door, grunted in agreement. Could be, but until we know more, we're sitting ducks here. Lila nodded, her mind spinning through possibilities. Then we need to start gathering intelligence. Tomas, see if you can access any surveillance feeds. Anything that might give us a lead. Tomas nodded, already pulling out his portable interface. On it, the hours crept by, anxiety a constant companion as the humans waited for news. Lila paced the room, her mind filled with the enormity of their predicament. She thought of her family back on Earth, of the promises she had made to them, promises of peace, of a future where humanity could stand as equals among the stars. Finally, Tomas looked up from his screen, his expression a mix of excitement and trepidation. "I've found something. It's not much, but it's a start." Lila and the others gathered around. On the screen was a grainy image, barely discernible, but there was something, an unfamiliar figure moving through the corridors at the time of the assassination, their features obscured. "Who is that?" Alara asked, squinting at the image. "No idea," Tomas replied, "but they were in restricted areas." "That's suspicious enough. We need to get this to the Krovacs," Lila said, her mind already strategizing their next move. "But we have to be careful. If we accuse the wrong person, then we're finished." Cole finished. "But it's a lead, and right now, it's all we've got." The decision was made to approach General Threx with the information. As Lila stepped out into the corridor, flanked by Cole and Alara, she felt the weight of their task. Her hands were cold, her heart a steady drumbeat of anxiety. As they reached the command center, they were met by the stern gaze of General Threx. His mandibles twitched, a sign of irritation or contemplation, it was hard to tell. "Ambassador Morgan," he acknowledged, his voice a low hum. "General Threx," Lila began, meeting his gaze with determination. "We have found some evidence that may help identify the assassin. We believe it's in both our interests to pursue this lead together." Threx considered her words, his eyes narrowing slightly. "Show me." Lila nodded to Tomas, who stepped forward and projected the image. Threx leaned closer, his antennae twitching as he scrutinized the figure. "This was taken from your internal surveillance," Tomas explained. "We believe this individual may be connected to the assassination." Threx was silent for a moment, then turned to Lila. "This is valuable information. However, it is not conclusive." "We understand that," Lila replied, "but it's a start. We need your help to identify them." Threx regarded her, his gaze unreadable. "Very well, we will investigate further. But know this, Ambassador Morgan, if this is a ploy, if you are deceiving us, the consequences will be severe." Lila nodded, her expression resolute. "I wouldn't expect anything less." As they were escorted back to their quarters, Lila felt the strain of the situation weigh heavily on her. She glanced at Alara, who managed a small, weary smile. "Do you think they'll find anything?" "I hope so," Lila replied, though doubt lingered at the edges of her thoughts. "We have to believe they will. It's our only chance." The hours stretched into an interminable wait, the humans confined, their every move watched. Conversations were muted, nerves frayed. Lila tried to offer reassurance, but the truth was that they were at the mercy of the Krovacs, their fate uncertain. As the day waned, Lila found herself alone in her temporary quarters, the silence oppressive. She thought of Hussein, of the idealism they had shared. He had been a friend as well as a colleague, and his loss left a void that seemed impossible to fill. A soft chime interrupted her thoughts, a message alert. She opened it, surprised to see a message from Threx. It was brief, a summons to meet in private. Heart pounding, Lila made her way to the designated meeting room, the corridors eerily silent. Threx was waiting, his demeanor inscrutable as ever. "We have identified the individual," he announced, without preamble. "They are not of the Krovacs coalition." Relief washed over Lila, tempered by caution. "Then who?" Threx's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "A mercenary, likely hired by an external party. We have no evidence of their true allegiance yet, but it is a start." Lila nodded, her mind racing with possibilities. "Thank you, General. This could be the breakthrough we need." Threx inclined his head. "You understand, of course, that this does not absolve your people. We will continue our investigation." "Of course," Lila agreed. "But perhaps now we can work together to find those truly responsible." Threx's gaze softened, just slightly. "Perhaps, but tread carefully, Ambassador Morgan. The stars are not always kind to the ambitious." Lila returned to her quarters, her mind a whirl of thoughts and plans. The path ahead was fraught with danger, the stakes higher than ever. But amid the uncertainty, a flicker of hope ignited, a chance to salvage the alliance, to prove humanity's worth not through force, but through resilience and resolve. As she relayed the news to her team, Lila saw the glimmers of hope mirrored in their eyes, a shared determination that transcended fear. They were outmatched, yes, but not outwitted. And in that, there lay their potential. The road ahead was uncertain, the future unwritten. But for the first time since the assassination, it felt like a future worth fighting for. The observation deck of the United Earth Embassy on Talrock Prime offered a panoramic view of the sprawling alien metropolis below. An architecture of twisting spires and bioluminescent facades sprawled as far as the eye could see, a testament to the Talrock's mastery of organic engineering. Ambassador Tessa Reinhardt stood there, tracing the complex patterns of light and shadow. Her mind reeled with the weight of the last few days. The peace summit had become a diplomatic quagmire. Tessa, a voice called softly from behind. It was Ethan Cargan, her longtime aide and confidant, his eyes shadowed with concern. The latest reports, it's worse than we thought. The Verkan delegation is threatening to walk. They claim our security detail violated their sanctum. Tessa's jaw tightened. The Verkan were notorious for their paranoia, and any perceived slight threatened to unravel months of negotiation. Did we? She asked, turning to face Ethan, her eyes seeking the truth. He shook his head, frustration evident in his clenched fists. No, but they're convinced. It's the perfect excuse to leverage their demands. If they pull out, the entire treaty collapses. The weight of it pressed down on her, but Tessa squared her shoulders. Then we need to find a way to convince them otherwise. Callan's team must have something, anything, that can disprove their claim. Ethan nodded, but the skepticism lingered. We've reviewed every security feed, every personnel log. Callan's team is working round the clock, but the Verkan are blocking us at every turn. Tessa sighed, turning back to the window. The Talrock and the Verkan had been on the brink of war for decades. The peace treaty was supposed to be a beacon of hope, a testament to humanity's role as a mediator among the stars. Now, it threatened to become a bitter reminder of their limitations. Keep pushing, she said, her voice steady despite the chaos. There has to be a way to prove our innocence. I won't let this fall apart. Ethan nodded, and as he left, Tessa allowed herself a moment of vulnerability. Her fingers traced the glass, feeling the coolness seep into her skin. The burden was heavy, but she knew she wasn't alone. Humanity had always thrived on adversity, and somehow, they would find a path through this darkness. Hours later, the situation had only grown more dire. The Verkan were adamant, their representatives refusing even the pretense of negotiation. The Talrock, though sympathetic to humanity's plight, were unwilling to risk their fragile peace for what they saw as an Earth-centric agenda. In the embassy's war room, the air was thick with tension. Screens glowed with intelligence reports, and the hum of technology competed with the urgent whispers of diplomats and analysts. Tessa stood at the center, her mind racing through possibilities, none of them promising. Ambassador Reinhardt, a voice crackled from the comms unit. It was Callan, the head of security. We've found something, an anomaly in the security feed. Tessa's heart leapt. Patch it through. On the main screen, an image flickered to life. It was grainy, distorted, but unmistakable. A figure cloaked in shadows, slipping through the embassy halls. The timestamp matched perfectly with the alleged breach. Enhance the image, Tessa ordered, every nerve on edge. As the image sharpened, a collective gasp filled the room. The figure was unmistakably Verkan, their own spy, caught in the act of sabotage. This could turn everything around, Ethan murmured, hope rekindling in his eyes. But Tessa remained cautious. We need confirmation. Cross-reference this with all known Verkan operatives. If we accuse them without solid proof, we risk escalating the situation further. The next few hours were a whirlwind of frantic activity. Analysts pored over databases, their fingers flying over holographic keyboards. Tessa coordinated with Callan, setting up a secure line to the Talrock, hoping to gain their support. And then, just as the last pieces began to fall into place, disaster struck. A sudden blackout fell over the embassy, plunging them into darkness. Emergency lights flickered on, casting eerie shadows that danced across the tense faces. What the hell happened? Tessa barked, her voice cutting through the confusion. EMP blast, Callan's voice came through the crackling comms. Localized, but it knocked out our primary systems. We're running on backups. The implications were chilling. The Verkan were making their move, determined to prevent any revelation of their duplicity. Tessa's mind raced. We need that footage. Secure the data physically if you have to, but don't let it be lost. She turned to Ethan, who was already coordinating with the tech teams. His resilience under pressure was a testament to the human spirit, and adaptability that had seen them through countless crises. Options? She asked, needing to hear the possibilities, no matter how slim. We could try rerouting through the Talrock's network, Ethan suggested, though doubt tinged his voice. But it's risky. If they detect us, it could be seen as a breach of trust. Tessa weighed the risks. The Talrock were allies, but their neutrality was precarious. Yet, without that evidence, humanity's credibility would be shattered. Do it, she decided. We need to take that chance. Inform the Talrock as soon as we're in. If we can present the evidence alongside an apology, it might salvage their trust. The minutes dragged on, each one an eternity. Tessa paced the room, her mind a tumult of strategy and fear. Every setback had only sharpened her resolve, but even she felt the strain of the impossible odds. Finally, Ethan raised his hand, a signal that the data was secure. We're in. Transmitting now. Relief washed over her, but it was tempered by the knowledge that their actions might just as easily provoke a diplomatic incident as prevent one. She sent a silent prayer to whatever powers watched over humanity, hoping that their gamble would pay off. As the evidence reached the Talrock, the embassy was once more thrown into turmoil. A delegation had arrived unannounced, led by none other than the Talrock Prime Minister himself. It was unprecedented, and the atmosphere was electric with anticipation and dread. Tessa met the Prime Minister in the audience chamber, her heart pounding like a war drum. His expression was inscrutable, his eyes reflecting centuries of wisdom and caution. Ambassador Reinhardt, he began, his voice resonant and calm. Your actions today have placed us in a difficult position. Tessa nodded, her throat dry. I understand, Prime Minister. We acted out of necessity, not malice. The evidence we uncovered is critical to preserving the peace. He studied her for a moment, the weight of his gaze heavy. Your species has always intrigued us, Ambassador. Your resilience, your audacity. It is both your greatest strength and your greatest flaw. Tessa held her breath, waiting for his verdict. We will verify your claims, he continued. And if they prove true, we will stand with you. But know this. Should you deceive us, all trust between our people will be forfeit. The gravity of his words settled over her, but there was also a glimmer of hope. Thank you, Prime Minister. We will not let you down. As the delegation departed, Tessa allowed herself a moment to breathe. The path ahead was still uncertain, but for the first time in days, the darkness felt a little less impenetrable. Yet, as she returned to the war room, the shadows loomed larger than ever. A new report had arrived, one that chilled her to the core. The Verkan had mobilized fleets, their warships massing at the border of Talrock space. They're preparing for an invasion, Ethan said, his voice barely above a whisper. They're using our actions as a pretext. It was a nightmare realized. The Verkan were prepared to plunge the galaxy into chaos, and humanity stood at the precipice, their reputation hanging by a thread. Tessa felt the weight of the universe pressing down on her. Every decision, every moment had led to this point. The stakes were higher than ever, and failure was not an option. But in that crucible of despair, she found a spark. The indomitable spirit of humanity, a flame that refused to be extinguished. We fight, she said, her voice firm with conviction. We use every resource, every ally, to stop this war before it begins. We show them what humanity is truly capable of. And as the darkness gathered, Tessa Reinhardt stood unbowed, ready to face the storm. The weight of the galaxy bore down on Ambassador Lena Torres as she stood at the expansive viewport of the Solarian embassy. The stars beyond twinkled like a million indifferent eyes, watching as the final threads of human resistance seemed to unravel. The air was thick with tension, a palpable presence that clung to every surface, every breath. The Galactic Consortium had declared humanity's defiance a futile gesture, and their words echoed in her mind, unrelenting. Just a day prior, the Consortium's ultimatum had come: unconditional surrender or annihilation. The news had sent shockwaves through Earth's corridors of power, spreading fear and panic. The Consortium's demands were absolute, their intentions cold and final. Already, the alien blockade around Earth tightened like a noose, cutting off communication and crucial supply lines. Their fleets, an impenetrable wall of technology and firepower, hovered like a dark omen above the blue planet. Lena's hands trembled, not from fear but from the sheer magnitude of the task before her. Her eyes, usually bright with determination, were shadowed with exhaustion and worry. The diplomatic efforts she had spearheaded, the countless negotiations and alliances, had all crumbled under the consortium's iron grip. Yet, within her heart, a flicker of hope remained, a fragile ember that refused to extinguish. "We cannot give up," she whispered to the empty room, her voice barely audible yet resolute. Behind her, the doors to the chamber slid open with a soft hiss, and Commander Eli Marshall strode in. His uniform was crisp, but the weariness in his eyes betrayed the weight of command. He offered a curt nod, his expression a mix of respect and shared understanding. "Ambassador Torres," he began, his voice steady as he joined her at the viewport, "the council is convened. They're waiting for you." Lena turned to face him, drawing strength from his steadfast presence. Eli had been a constant ally, a pillar of strength in these trying times. His strategic mind and unyielding spirit had become essential to their efforts. "Eli," she said, her voice firming, "do you think we have a chance?" He met her gaze, and for a moment, the mask of the soldier fell away, revealing the man beneath. "As long as we're breathing, there's always a chance," he replied, his words carrying the weight of conviction. "We've faced impossible odds before." Lena nodded, drawing on his optimism. It was the human way, she thought, to persist despite the odds, to find light in the darkest of places. Together, they made their way to the council chamber, where the leaders of humanity waited. The room was filled with a tense silence as Lena and Eli entered. Representatives from Earth's nations, military leaders, and key advisors sat around the circular table, their faces drawn and lined with worry. A large holographic display dominated the room, showing the status of the blockade and the movements of consortium forces. "Ladies and gentlemen," Lena began, taking her place at the head of the table, "we stand at a crossroads. The consortium believes they have us cornered. They see our struggle as futile, our spirit as broken. But they underestimate us." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the room, though doubt lingered like a specter. Ambassador, General Harlan, a veteran of countless battles, spoke up, his gravelly voice cutting through the tension. "What can we do? Their technology is decades, if not centuries, ahead of ours. Our fleet is outmatched. We're outnumbered." Lena nodded, acknowledging the truth of his words. "It's true, we're facing overwhelming odds. But humanity has always thrived in adversity. Our strength lies not just in our technology or our numbers, but in our ingenuity, our resilience, and our ability to adapt." She gestured to the holographic display, which shifted to show a detailed map of the blockade. "Our scientists have been working tirelessly on a breakthrough, something that could level the playing field." Dr. Mira Solari, one of Earth's leading scientists, stood up from her seat, adjusting her glasses. Her face was pale but determined. "We've developed a prototype technology, a disruption field that can temporarily disable the consortium's shields and communications. It's untested in battle, and deploying it will be incredibly risky." Eli leaned forward, his interest piqued. "How does it work?" Dr. Solari smiled, a flicker of excitement lighting up her eyes. "It's based on quantum interference principles. In theory, it can create a localized field that interferes with the consortium's advanced systems." "But," she hesitated, the weight of her next words heavy with significance. "We need a delivery method. A small craft, something maneuverable that can get close enough to deploy it. And it'll require a pilot willing to fly into the heart of danger." A heavy silence fell over the room as the enormity of the task sank in. Lena noticed Eli's jaw set in determination, and she knew what he was about to say before he spoke. "I'll do it," Eli announced, his voice unwavering. "I'll fly the mission." Lena's heart swelled with a mix of pride and dread. She had expected nothing less from him, yet the thought of losing him was a knife twist in her gut. "Eli, are you sure?" she asked, her voice barely concealing her concern. He nodded, his eyes meeting hers with a fierce resolve. "Absolutely. It's our best shot, Lena. And I'm not about to let them walk all over us without a fight." Lena took a deep breath, steeling herself. "Very well, we proceed with the plan. But know this. Every single one of you is crucial to our success. We need to coordinate our efforts, keep the consortium distracted while Eli makes his approach." General Harlan grunted in approval. "We can stage a diversionary attack. Hit multiple points along the blockade, make them think we're launching a full-scale offensive." The room buzzed with renewed energy as plans were laid, strategies devised. Lena watched, a sense of hope rekindling in her chest. Humanity was down, but not defeated. Not yet. As the meeting drew to a close, Lena found herself once again at the viewport, staring into the vastness of space. Eli joined her, standing silently by her side. "Thank you," she said softly, her voice carrying the weight of her gratitude. He shrugged, a small smile playing on his lips. "It's what we do, Lena. We fight, we adapt, we survive." She reached out, squeezing his arm, drawing strength from his presence. "Come back to us, Eli. We'll need you for the victory party." He chuckled, the sound warm and reassuring. "Wouldn't miss it for the world." As the hours passed, preparations continued in a flurry of activity. Ships were readied, weapons primed, and the disruption device carefully loaded onto a sleek, agile fighter. Eli spent the time going over the mission parameters, coordinating with the team, ensuring every detail was accounted for. Finally, the time came. The launch bay was a hive of activity, the air filled with the hum of engines and the sharp tang of fuel. Lena stood by the entrance, watching as Eli climbed into the cockpit of his fighter. He gave her a thumbs up, his face confident and determined. "Godspeed, Eli," she called out, her voice carrying over the noise. He saluted her, the gesture crisp and full of promise. "See you on the other side, Ambassador." With a roar, his fighter lifted off, soaring into the void of space. Lena watched until it disappeared from sight, her heart a tumult of hope and fear. As the diversionary attacks commenced, the consortium forces shifted, their attention drawn to the sudden surge of human activity. It was a desperate gamble, a high-stakes game of cat and mouse. But it was working. The blockade's attention wavered, creating the opening Eli needed. Inside the cockpit, Eli's hands moved with practiced precision, guiding the craft through the chaos of battle. He could feel the weight of the mission pressing down on him, but he pushed it aside, focusing on the task at hand. "Approaching target," he reported, his voice calm and steady, though adrenaline coursed through his veins. "Copy, Commander," came Dr. Solari's voice over the comms. "Activating disruption field in 10 seconds. Good luck." The seconds ticked by with agonizing slowness, each heartbeat a countdown to destiny. Eli's fingers danced over the controls, his mind a symphony of calculations and reflexes. The consortium ships loomed before him, their sleek forms a testament to their technological superiority. But humanity had always been the underdog, and it was in these moments, these slivers of time where everything hung in the balance, that they shone the brightest. Now, Dr. Solari's voice rang in his ears, sharp and clear. Eli activated the device, and for a heartbeat, the universe held its breath. Then, a wave of energy radiated outward, an invisible force that rippled through the consortium fleet. Lights flickered, systems faltered, and the once impenetrable shield wavered, a chink in the armor exposed. "Disruption field active," Eli reported, his eyes fixed on the opening ahead. "I'm going in." The consortium, caught off guard by the sudden breach, scrambled to respond. But the damage was done. Eli's craft slipped through the defenses, a single spark of defiance in the vast darkness. As the consortium forces struggled to regroup, the human fleet pressed the advantage, their attacks coordinated and relentless. The tide was turning, the momentum shifting as the impossible became reality. Yet, victory was not assured. Eli knew the risk, the price of success. His craft weaved through the chaos, each maneuver a dance with death. But he was not alone. Behind him, the spirit of humanity surged, a collective will that refused to bow, to break. Lena watched from the embassy, her heart in her throat as the battle unfolded. In that moment, she saw the truth of humanity's essence, a tapestry of courage and sacrifice, a testament to their unyielding spirit. The consortium, overconfident in their superiority, had underestimated their foe. They had seen only a primitive species, not the resilience, the ingenuity that defined them. And now, they faced the consequences of that hubris. As Eli's craft pierced deeper into the heart of the blockade, Lena knew that this was the breaking point, the moment where everything changed. The consortium's grip was loosening, their dominance challenged by the indomitable force of human determination. Hope blossomed in her chest, a fragile yet powerful beacon. Humanity would not be cowed, not while there was breath in their bodies and fire in their hearts. The darkest hour was upon them, but dawn was breaking on the horizon. The seeds of resurgence had been planted, and soon, they would bloom into a future forged by the indomitable spirit of humanity. And as Eli's voice crackled over the comms, a triumphant cry that echoed through the void, Lena knew that the fight was far from over. But they had taken the first step, and that made all the difference. Lena, Eli's voice came through, breathless and exultant, we did it. The path is open. A cheer erupted from the council chamber, a sound of joy and relief that resonated through every fiber of her being. Tears filled Lena's eyes, a release of emotion she had held at bay for too long. They had done it. Against all odds, they had turned the tide. As the stars glittered beyond the viewport, Lena allowed herself a small, victorious smile. The fight was far from over, but humanity had proven one thing beyond doubt. They would not go quietly into the night. Their darkest hour had passed, and the dawn was theirs to claim. The conference room aboard the Galactic Union flagship was a cold expanse of metal and sterile light, yawning with the echoes of barely restrained conflict. The air was thick with the tension of unspoken words and unacknowledged truths. Representatives from dozens of systems sat around the crescent-shaped table, each bearing insignia of their worlds, each eyeing the humans with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. At the center of it all stood Ambassador Elise Martin, a figure of unexpected poise and determination. Her eyes, a steely blue, scanned the room with the calm intensity of someone who had seen far more than her years would suggest. She wore the understated uniform of a United Earth diplomat, but there was something unmistakably formidable about her presence. Ambassador Martin, your people are new to the fold, intoned the delegate from the Zulthar Consortium, a towering figure whose voice was as deep as the void. Your records suggest little in terms of technological advancement. What makes you believe you can mediate in our affairs? Elise knew this was more than a question, it was a challenge, a veiled dismissal. The Zulthar, known for their prowess in quantum engineering, had little patience for newcomers. She smiled, a gesture that seemed almost disarmingly out of place amidst the tension. The history of our species is wrought with conflict, Ambassador. We've learned not just to survive, but to thrive in adversity. Our strength lies not just in what we wield, but in how we think. A murmur rippled through the assembly, a current of disbelief tinged with curiosity. The humans had arrived with little fanfare, their entry into the Union a formality more than an event. But now, as Elise's words hung in the air, there was a shift, subtle but profound. Ambassador Korth of the Volinor Collective, his scales glistening under the artificial light, leaned forward, his eyes narrow slits of suspicion. And what exactly do you intend to contribute to this discourse, Ambassador Martin? Diplomacy seems a lofty ambition for a species so nascent. Elise met his gaze without flinching. Perhaps, she began, her voice steady, we can offer a perspective that innovation isn't always a matter of technological might. Sometimes, it's about finding solutions where none seem possible. As if on cue, the lights in the room flickered, a reminder of the ongoing energy crisis that had precipitated this emergency summit. The flicker was minor, yet it provided an opening Elise had been waiting for. To that end, she continued, my team has been working on a proposal that might alleviate the strain on your grids. She gestured to Dr. Kamara Abekwi, a diminutive woman with an unassuming air and a mind as sharp as a diamond cutter. Dr. Abekwi stepped forward, her fingers deftly manipulating a small device that projected a holographic model above the table. It was a lattice of interwoven energy conduits, a design that seemed deceptively simple. This, she explained, is a hybrid fusion-fission reactor, utilizing elements abundant across Union territories. It can integrate with existing infrastructure, providing a scalable solution to your energy demands. The room was silent, the delegates transfixed by the elegance of the design. The Volinor delegate leaned even closer, his interest piqued. How does this differ from existing reactors, Dr. Abekwi? She smiled, the kind of smile reserved for those who have just unveiled a masterpiece. It doesn't just produce energy. It harnesses the surplus from quantum fluctuations, effectively turning waste into power. And it can be built at a fraction of your current operational costs. The murmurs intensified, the air now charged with a blend of skepticism and intrigue. The Zulthar delegate's gaze flitted between the hologram and Elise, the weight of her revelation slowly settling in. Impressive, he admitted begrudgingly. But theoretical models are one thing. Practical application is another. Elise nodded, acknowledging the challenge. True, but we are prepared to demonstrate a working prototype. Should you agree, we can have it operational within your systems in a matter of days." A ripple of disbelief swept through the room. Days? It was an audacious claim, almost bordering on arrogance. Yet there was no mistaking the sincerity in her tone, the conviction in her posture. Korth crossed his arms, his expression unreadable. "And what do you seek in return, Ambassador Martin? Surely, you do not offer such advancements without expecting recompense." Elise took a breath, her eyes scanning the room, gauging the reactions of the delegates. "We seek partnership," she said simply. "An alliance not just in politics, but in science and exploration. We believe our strengths complement yours, that together, we can achieve more than we could alone." The silence that followed was palpable, a moment suspended in the gravity of possibility. Here was a species that had arrived as underdogs, perceived as little more than a curious footnote in the annals of galactic diplomacy. Yet in this moment, they were something more, a potential ally, a catalyst for change. "Very well," the Zolthar delegate finally said, his voice resonating with newfound respect. "We shall consider your proposal, Ambassador. You may proceed with the demonstration." It was a tentative acceptance, but it was enough. As Elise and her team left the conference room, the air crackling with anticipation, there was a sense that the tide had begun to shift. Back on Earth, a flurry of activity unfolded as teams coordinated the logistics of deploying the prototype. Engineers and scientists, inspired by the opportunity to showcase their ingenuity on a galactic stage, worked around the clock, their efforts a testament to the power of collaboration and resolve. Days later, beneath the shadow of the flagship, the prototype stood ready. Delegates from across the Union gathered to witness the unveiling, their skepticism tempered by an undercurrent of hope. Dr. Abekwi addressed the crowd, her voice carrying the confidence of one who knows the value of her creation. "What you see before you is the culmination of human innovation, a testament to what we can achieve when we dare to think beyond limitations." With a nod to her team, the reactor hummed to life, a low thrumming that resonated deep within the bones. As the energy output stabilized, the display screens showed the impossible, a net positive energy yield, more than sufficient to power the flagship and beyond. An audible gasp swept through the assembly. The delegates, who had come expecting little more than a theoretical exercise, now witnessed the undeniable proof of human potential. Ambassador Korth, who had maintained a veneer of skepticism, approached Elise, his eyes reflecting a newfound respect. "It seems I underestimated your species, Ambassador Martin. This changes things." Elise nodded, her expression one of quiet triumph. "We are not defined by where we come from, but by where we are going. Together, we can redefine what is possible." As the implications of the demonstration settled in, there was no denying the shift in perception. The humans, once seen as outsiders, had earned their place at the table, not just as participants, but as innovators and equals. The momentum began to build, a groundswell of support from unlikely quarters. Species who had once dismissed humanity now found themselves reevaluating their stance, considering the potential of partnership in a new light. In private chambers, discussions turned from doubt to opportunity, from rivalry to collaboration. The humans had done more than prove their worth. They had ignited a spark of possibility that could reshape the future of the Union. And as the days unfolded, it became clear that this was only the beginning. The humans, with their audacious spirit and boundless ingenuity, had shown they were not to be underestimated. They were here to stay, and they intended to make their mark on the stars. For Elise and her team, the journey had been arduous, fraught with challenges both expected and unforeseen. Yet standing on the precipice of this new era, they knew they had accomplished something extraordinary. In the quiet moments, when the weight of their achievements settled in, Elise found herself reflecting on what it meant to be human. To defy expectations, to rise above limitations, to strive for something greater than oneself. That was the essence of their strength. And as the flagship drifted through the starlit expanse, a symbol of newfound unity and shared purpose, the future was no longer a distant horizon. It was here, vibrant and full of promise, a reminder that humanity's greatest journey had only just begun. The grand hall of the Galactic Union Assembly buzzed with tension, its domed ceiling echoing the whispers of 1,000 species gathered to witness the unprecedented event. The air shimmered with holographic projections of distant stars, casting an ethereal glow over the delegates. At the center stood Ambassador Leah Morgan, a solitary human figure dwarfed by the grandeur of the assembly. Yet in that moment, she seemed to command the entire universe. The display of unity among the human delegation was nothing short of breathtaking. Behind Leah, a team of experts from every conceivable field, diplomacy, science, technology, and the arts, stood poised, each a living testament to human resilience and ingenuity. Their communications were seamless, each individual a vital part of a greater, harmonious whole. The representatives of the hegemony, a formidable coalition of interstellar powers who had long viewed humanity as little more than an upstart species, watched with a mix of disbelief and apprehension. Their leader, High Chancellor Vortha, leaned forward, his eyes narrowing skeptically. He had underestimated them, he realized too late. Humanity, with all its celebrated chaos and unpredictability, had become the linchpin in the galactic balance of power. Ambassador Morgan's voice rang out, clear and unwavering. We stand here today not as supplicants but as equals. Humanity has often been judged by its history of conflict, yet it is precisely this history that has forged our resilience and creativity. We have learned to thrive against adversity, to innovate in the face of impossibility, and to unite when division sought to tear us apart. With a subtle gesture, she activated the data crystals arrayed before her. The chamber filled with holographic displays, images of Earth, its sprawling cities, and verdant landscapes, scenes of technological marvels and cultural milestones. Each image was a chapter in the human story, a testament to their journey from a solitary world to the stars. The hegemony delegates shifted uneasily, their previous confidence eroded by this unexpected display of human achievement. They had believed humanity to be fragmented, but here was evidence of a species that had transcended its divisions, a civilization capable of extraordinary things when united by a common purpose. As the images faded, Leah continued, her voice carrying the weight of conviction. We have mastered the art of collaboration, not just among ourselves but with the many species we now call allies. It is this spirit of cooperation that we offer to the Galactic Union, a partnership that values diversity, respects sovereignty, and pursues peace. The room fell silent, the enormity of her words reverberating through the assembly. It was a challenge and a promise, a call to a new order where power was not dictated by might but by shared aspirations. High Chancellor Vortha rose, his demeanor a precarious balance of authority and uncertainty. Ambassador Morgan, you speak of unity, yet humanity's history is fraught with division. Why should we believe this time is any different? Leah met his gaze, her eyes unwavering. Because we have learned from our past. Our strength lies not in denial of our nature but in our ability to learn from it. We have become a tapestry woven from the threads of our experiences, both good and bad. She gestured to her team, each member stepping forward to present their contributions. Dr. Aiko Tanaka, a leading scientist, unveiled humanity's latest advancements in sustainable energy, a technology that promised to revolutionize the galactic economy, reducing dependence on dwindling resources and fostering interstellar cooperation. Engineer Marcus Patel demonstrated their breakthroughs in propulsion systems, offering the potential to shrink the galaxy and bring far-flung civilizations into closer contact than ever before. Cultural Ambassador Elena Torres shared a vision of shared artistic endeavors, where the unique perspectives of countless worlds could find expression in a universal language of creativity. Each presentation was a masterstroke, a demonstration of human excellence that left the assembly spellbound. The hegemony delegates could no longer mask their discomfort. The humans had taken everything thrown at them and turned it into opportunity, weaving a narrative of unity and progress that was impossible to dismiss. As Leah concluded the presentations, she offered a final declaration. We seek not to dominate, but to collaborate. Let us build a future where no species fears the shadows of their neighbors, where our differences become the foundation for understanding rather than conflict. Vortha's brow furrowed, the veneer of his earlier superiority cracking under the weight of realization. The hegemony had sought to undermine humanity, to keep them divided and weak, but instead had inadvertently fueled their greatest strengths. In a gesture that defied tradition, Vortha stepped down from his podium and approached Leah. He extended a hand, a symbolic gesture of equality. Perhaps, Ambassador Morgan, we have much to learn from each other. May this be the dawn of a new era. Leah accepted his hand with grace, sealing the moment with a nod of acknowledgement. The chamber erupted in applause, a chorus of approval from the gathered delegates, each species recognizing the significance of the moment. It was a triumph not just for humanity, but for the entire Galactic Union. In that decisive moment, the tables had turned. Humanity, once perceived as a minor player in the galactic stage, had carved out a place not through force of arms but through the power of their ideals and ingenuity. The path ahead was clear. The victory was theirs, but it was shared with all who dared to dream of a brighter future. The aftermath of humanity's unprecedented victory against the Galactic Council's oppressive hegemony resonated like the pulse of a newborn star, reverberating across the cosmos. In the grand chambers of the now dismantled council, echoes of past decrees faded into obsolescence as the new alliance, forged in the crucible of conflict, sat in deliberation. Earth's representatives, having defied the odds with their audacity and resolve, stood not just for themselves but for all species yearning for self-determination. Ambassador Carla Mendoza, who had once stood alone in the council chamber with her voice barely a whisper in the cacophony of alien politics, now commanded a presence that demanded respect. Her steadfast belief in the potential of unity had become the cornerstone of a new era. She glanced across the table at Chernobyl, formerly a hardline enforcer of the council's edicts, now humbled and reflective. His species, the Valorians, had suffered immense losses during the conflict, and he had come to the table seeking not just reconciliation but understanding. "We have much to rebuild," Chernobyl admitted, his once unyielding gaze softened by the weight of recent events. "Your people have shown us that strength lies not in the subjugation of others, but in the power of cooperation." Carla nodded, her eyes shining with the fervor of hope realized. "Together, we can create a foundation that values every voice. This is not just a victory for humanity, but for all who cherish freedom." The room was filled with representatives of diverse species, each having weathered their own internal battles. The once fractured alliance had transformed into a tapestry of mutual respect, woven together by the shared experience of survival and triumph against tyranny. Beyond the polished walls of the assembly, Earth itself was in a state of transformation. Cities, once bracing for invasion, now opened their arms to new friends, exchanging cultural treasures and technological advancements. The skies above were filled with ships from worlds that had once been mere points of light in the night sky, now familiar beacons of friendship and possibility. Dr. Anjali Rao, the brilliant scientist whose innovations had tipped the scales in humanity's favor, walked through the bustling corridors of the newly established United Galactic Research Institute. She marveled at the collaboration that filled every lab and classroom, her heart swelling with pride at the sight of young minds from myriad worlds working side by side. "Dr. Rao," called a voice from behind. It was Tarek, a young engineer from the planet Sorleith, his enthusiasm infectious. "We're close to finalizing the new energy matrix. It could revolutionize space travel for everyone." Anjali smiled, her eyes reflecting the boundless potential she saw in the next generation. "That's what it's all about, Tarek. Sharing our discoveries, pushing the boundaries of what we know, together." Humanity's victory had not just secured its place in the cosmos, it had ignited a renaissance of innovation and cultural exchange. The barriers that had once divided species were dissolving, giving way to a deeper understanding and appreciation of each other's stories and traditions. Yet, amid the celebration and progress, there were those who had paid the ultimate price for freedom. Captain David Reynolds, whose strategic brilliance had navigated humanity through its darkest hours, stood at the memorial erected in honor of those who had fallen. The names of countless heroes were etched into the stone, a testament to their sacrifice. He placed a hand on the cool marble, his heart heavy with both sorrow and gratitude. Beside him stood Lieutenant Arya Chen, her own eyes misted with unshed tears for comrades lost. "They'll never be forgotten," Arya said softly, her voice a pledge to carry their memories into the future. David nodded, the weight of leadership resting on his shoulders like an old, familiar cloak. "They gave us everything. Now it's up to us to honor their legacy by ensuring this peace endures." The memorial became a gathering place, not just for remembrance, but for reflection and renewal. It was there that old enemies reconciled and new friendships were forged, each person leaving a part of their past behind to embrace a future replete with possibility. As the stars themselves seemed to twinkle with newfound vibrancy, the galaxy began to heal. Trade routes reopened, planets ravaged by war were rebuilt, and the spirit of cooperation flourished. Humanity's indomitable spirit had not only secured its survival but had sparked a revolution that inspired others to rise against oppression and strive for a better tomorrow. In time, the new Galactic Alliance formalized a charter, a living document that enshrined the principles of equality, mutual respect, and shared prosperity. It was signed by representatives from every world, each stroke of pen to paper a promise of commitment to a brighter future. The ceremony was held on Earth, in a symbolic gesture of gratitude for the courage that had sparked the revolution. As the last signature was penned, a cheer rose from the crowd, a collective exhalation of relief and joy. The universe, once a tapestry of conflict and division, was now a canvas upon which to paint a shared destiny. As the celebrations unfolded, Carla found herself standing on a balcony overlooking the bustling city below. The lights of New Geneva, rebuilt from the ruins of war, glittered like a sea of stars come to Earth. It was a sight that spoke of resilience and renewal, of a world reborn. Chernobyl joined her, his presence a reminder of the transformative power of understanding and forgiveness. "You humans are truly remarkable," he said, his voice a blend of admiration and introspection. "In your darkest hour, you found a way to shine." Carla smiled, the warmth of kinship between them a testament to the journey they had shared. "We're all remarkable, Chernobyl. The real victory is in what we build together." And so, the universe moved forward, each new dawn bringing with it the promise of discovery, the joy of collaboration, and the unyielding hope of humanity. Earth stood not just as a beacon of resilience, but as a symbol of what the galaxy could achieve when united by a common purpose. As Carla turned to leave the balcony, the night sky stretched infinite and inviting above her. She knew that humanity's story was far from over. It was a story that would echo through the ages, inspiring others to reach beyond the stars, to find strength in unity, and to believe in the enduring power of hope. For in the heart of every human beat the conviction that they were not just part of the universe, they were an integral part of its story, and their legacy would illuminate the path for generations to come. Together, they had changed the cosmos forever, and in doing so, had discovered the true meaning of humanity, in all its glorious, resilient, and indomitable forms.